Unexpected emergence. The sleek command deck of the Galactic Consortium patrol vessel Righteous Observer hummed with routine activity until a piercing alarm shattered the calm. Senior Monitor HFY swiveled his elongated neck toward the sensor station, his four compound eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Report," he commanded, his translator implant converting his native clicks and whistles into standard consortium speech. "Unknown vessel detected at the edge of the Orion Arm, sir," responded Junior Monitor Peltic, her scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Configuration suggests human origin." Zarvosh's skin rippled with blue patterns of disbelief. "Impossible. Human vessels are confined to their solar system by treaty. They lack the technology for deep space travel." "Scans confirm, sir. It's definitely human, but—" Peltic hesitated, her neck frills flaring with confusion. "These readings can't be right. The energy signature suggests propulsion technology at least 4 generations beyond anything in our database for human capabilities." Zarvosh moved to the station, towering over his subordinate. The scan results defied everything he knew about the species classified as developing and restricted to their home system under the consortium's careful supervision. "Initiate contact protocol," he ordered, "and alert consortium command. If humans have somehow advanced beyond their approved technological level, the High Council must be informed." As the communication attempt went out, Zarvosh studied the vessel's configuration on the main view screen. It bore little resemblance to the bulky, inefficient ships humans had been permitted to build for their limited solar system travel. This vessel was sleek, predatory even, with odd geometric angles that seemed to bend the very light around it. "No response to our hails, Senior Monitor," reported the communications officer. "Keep trying," Zarvosh ordered, "and bring us to intercept course." The Righteous Observer altered trajectory, its engines glowing as it moved toward the mysterious human ship. Zarvosh felt a rare sensation of unease crawl along his spine. The consortium had governed interstellar travel for over 3,000 cycles, carefully managing the development of younger species to ensure galactic stability. Humans were among the most strictly controlled. Their aggressive tendencies and rapid technological adaptation had been flagged as potential threats by the consortium's predictive algorithms. "They're moving, sir," called out Peltic suddenly, accelerating to— "That can't be right." "What is it?" demanded Zarvosh. "They'd just exceeded our maximum velocity by a factor of 3. No known propulsion system should be capable of that acceleration curve without tearing the ship apart." Zarvosh's skin darkened to a deep indigo of concern. "Track them. I want to know exactly where they're going." Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Vanguard, her posture rigid despite the exhaustion of the past 72 hours. The experimental warship had performed beyond even the most optimistic projections during its maiden voyage, but now they faced their first real test. "Consortium vessel still in pursuit, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Sato from the tactical station. "Their long-range sensors are attempting to penetrate our stealth field." "Let them try," Alina replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. After decades of secret development, first contact, true first contact, was finally happening, but not according to plan. The Vanguard had suffered a quantum field instability during its test jump, dropping them in consortium-controlled space far from their intended coordinates. "They're broadcasting again," said Communications Officer Chen. "Standard consortium greeting protocol, followed by a demand that we power down and prepare for inspection." "No response," Alina ordered. "Maintain course to the rendezvous coordinates. How long until we reach the border of unclaimed space?" "At current velocity, 27 minutes," replied Navigator Lopez. Alina nodded. Just under half an hour to reach safety before the consortium could bring reinforcements. The Vanguard represented humanity's greatest achievement, and its most carefully guarded secret. For over a century, Earth had officially complied with the technological restrictions imposed by the consortium, while quietly developing revolutionary propulsion and weapons technology in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The bridge fell silent as the crew focused on their tasks. These men and women represented Earth's finest, chosen not just for their skills, but for their absolute commitment to humanity's independence. They all knew what was at stake if they failed. "Captain," Sato called out, breaking the tense silence, "we have multiple vessels approaching from Sector 7. Consortium military configurations." "How many?" Elena asked, her mind racing through contingency plans. 7 ships, heavy cruiser class. They're moving to create a containment formation. Elena studied the tactical display, her expression grim. They had expected the possibility of discovery, but not this soon. The Vanguard had been designed to outrun any known consortium vessel, but evasion would be more difficult against multiple opponents in formation. "We're being hailed by the lead vessel," Chen reported. "They're identifying as the consortium flagship Eternal Justice." Elena straightened her uniform jacket. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of a consortium high monitor. Unlike Xarvosh's species, this alien appeared almost reptilian, with iridescent scales and a crown-like crest that marked his high rank. "Human vessel," the alien's translator rendered his speech with a metallic undertone. "I am High Monitor Zexcal of the Galactic Consortium. Your presence in this sector constitutes a severe treaty violation. Power down your systems immediately and prepare to be boarded." Elena stepped forward, her chin raised. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Ship Vanguard. We acknowledge your transmission but reject your authority. The Earth has never willingly signed any treaty with the consortium." The High Monitor's crest flared with obvious surprise. "Your understanding is irrelevant. Your species was deemed insufficiently developed for full treaty participation. The consortium acts as guardian for all developing species." "Guardian?" Elena couldn't keep the edge from her voice. "Is that what you call restricting our development and confining us to our home system? Humanity no longer accepts your protection, High Monitor." "Captain," warned Sato in a low voice, "they're charging weapons." Elena nodded slightly to acknowledge the warning, but kept her eyes on the alien commander. "High Monitor, I suggest you reconsider your actions. You might find humanity is not as primitive as you have been led to believe." "You leave us no choice, Captain Reyes," Sexcall replied, his voice cold. "We will disable your vessel and return your people to Earth. The consortium will then determine appropriate sanctions for this violation." The transmission cut abruptly. Elena turned to her crew, who awaited her orders with tense anticipation. "Battle stations," she commanded calmly. "Activate the Hawking field." Throughout the ship, klaxons sounded as crew members rushed to their combat positions. On the bridge, protective barriers rose around critical stations as the Vanguard prepared for its first real combat engagement. "Hawking field active," reported Chief Engineer Chandra from Engineering. "Full defensive capability online." Elena took her command seat, securing the harness. "Lieutenant Commander Sato, ready countermeasures but hold fire unless I give the order." "Navigator Lopez, plot an evasion course, pattern Omega-6." The consortium ships had formed a perfect containment pattern, their weapons locked on the Vanguard. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. "Incoming fire," shouted Sato. Energy beams lanced toward the human vessel from multiple directions. Instead of attempting to evade, the Vanguard remained steady as the attacks approached. When the beams should have struck the hull, they instead curved around the ship, their trajectories bent by the invisible Hawking field that manipulated the very fabric of space-time around the vessel. "No damage," reported Sato, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "The field is working perfectly." On the tactical display, Elena could see the confusion in the consortium formation as their sensors tried to make sense of what had just happened. "Open a channel," she ordered. When Chen signaled the connection was established, Elena spoke clearly and confidently. High Monitor, I believe this demonstration should make our position clear. The Vanguard represents just one of many technological advances humanity has achieved despite your efforts to keep us primitive. We did not come seeking conflict, but we will not surrender. What manner of defense is this? Demanded Zexcal, his composure visibly shaken. Human ingenuity, High Monitor. Something your consortium has severely underestimated. Elena nodded to Sato. Now, allow me to demonstrate our offensive capabilities. The Vanguard's forward array glowed briefly before releasing a concentrated pulse of energy that struck one of the consortium vessels with surgical precision. The ship's propulsion systems immediately went dark, leaving it drifting helplessly. That was a focused electromagnetic pulse, Elena explained. Your vessel is undamaged, but it will require significant time to restart its systems. We could have destroyed it, but that is not our purpose here. The remaining consortium ships adjusted their formation, uncertainty evident in their movements. What is your purpose, Captain Reyes? Zexcal asked, his voice now carrying a note of caution. Elena stood again, her posture emanating the quiet confidence that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced vessel. To declare our independence, High Monitor. For too long, humanity has been deceived and constrained. Today that ends. The Earth no longer recognizes consortium authority. We will expand into the stars on our own terms. This is unprecedented, Zexcal responded. The consortium has maintained peace for millennia by guiding species development. Peace through suppression is no peace at all, Elena countered. We have discovered the truth about your guidance program. How many other species have you held back while claiming to protect them? Before the High Monitor could respond, a new alert sounded on the Vanguard's bridge. Captain, called out Navigator Lopez urgently. Quantum distortion detected. Multiple signatures. It's the fleet. Elena couldn't suppress a smile as space itself seemed to ripple around them. In rapid succession, 12 human vessels materialized alongside the Vanguard, each bearing the same advanced design. As I said, High Monitor, Elena addressed the now silent alien commander. The Vanguard is not alone. Humanity has prepared for this day for generations. We suggest you withdraw your forces and inform the consortium that they will need to negotiate with Earth as equals from this point forward. The view screen showed Zexcal conferring urgently with his officers, their movements betraying their agitation. When he finally faced Elena again, his posture had changed subtly. The consortium does not respond well to threats, Captain Reyes. This is not a threat, High Monitor. It's a declaration of our rightful place among the stars. Your choice now is simple: adapt to this new reality, or continue a conflict you cannot win. The tension stretched between them, two representatives of vastly different civilizations at a pivotal moment in galactic history. One clinging to millennia of control, the other announcing its emergence onto a stage long denied. I will convey your declaration to the High Council, Zexcal finally responded. But be warned, Captain. The consortium has faced challenges before. We have endured. As has humanity, High Monitor, Elena replied. Despite your best efforts to hold us back, remember that when you speak to your council. The transmission ended, and the consortium vessels slowly began to withdraw, maintaining defensive positions as they retreated. They're leaving, Captain, Sato confirmed, monitoring the tactical display, returning to their previous coordinates. Fleet Commander Jackson's face appeared on the view screen, replacing the departed alien. Impressive first contact, Captain Reyes. Not exactly how we planned it, but effective nonetheless. Thank you, Commander, Elena replied. But I suspect this is just the beginning. Once the consortium realizes the full extent of what we've accomplished, they'll have to accept that the galaxy has changed. Jackson finished for her. Humanity is no longer bound by their rules. Elena nodded, turning to look at her crew, each face showing the same mixture of pride and determination that she felt. Set course for the rendezvous point, she ordered. We have a lot to prepare for. As the human fleet moved in perfect formation toward unclaimed space, Alina knew that humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that could never be ignored again. Centuries of secret development, of working in the shadows while presenting a facade of compliance, had culminated in this moment. Whatever came next, humanity would face it on their own terms. Breaking chains. The Galactic Consortium Council chamber hummed with agitated voices as representatives from 23 spacefaring species debated the unprecedented situation. High Monitor Zexkull stood at the center of the circular room, his report on the human encounter displayed on massive holographic screens surrounding the chamber. "The evidence is undeniable," announced Elder Counselor Taveri, her delicate, translucent form floating above her gravity pad. As the oldest member of the council, representing a species that had achieved space travel before most others had discovered fire, her words carried immense weight. These humans have somehow advanced far beyond their assigned developmental trajectory. "This is more than a regulatory concern," added Counselor Drav, his massive, stone-like body shifting uncomfortably. "It represents a fundamental failure of our containment protocols. How could they have developed such technology without detection?" High Monitor Zexkull's crest flattened against his skull in a gesture of formal apology. "Our surveillance systems were focused on detecting conventional technological signatures. The humans appear to have developed using principles that our monitors were not calibrated to recognize." "Unacceptable," thundered Counselor Moklar, slamming a tentacled appendage against the council table. "The Treaty of Stewardship is explicit. Developing species are to be guided along approved paths. If humans have found a way to circumvent our guidance, other species might follow. The entire balance of the galaxy could shift." Elder Tiveri raised a delicate limb for silence. "What concerns me more deeply is their claim regarding our suppression of their development. How did they discover this aspect of our stewardship program?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The consortium's careful management of developing species was justified in their governing documents as protective guidance, not the systematic suppression that it often became in practice. "We must respond decisively," Zexkull stated, breaking the silence. "I recommend immediate deployment of our containment fleet to Sol system. The human homeworld must be isolated, and their advanced fleet neutralized before this contagion of independence spreads." As the council debated the recommendation, none of them noticed the small maintenance drone hovering near one of the chamber's environmental control panels. Its ordinary appearance concealed its true purpose as one of humanity's most sophisticated intelligence-gathering tools. Aboard the Vanguard, now stationed at the edge of what humans had designated free space, Alina Reyes reviewed the live intelligence feed from the Consortium Council with her senior staff and Admiral William Chen, who had arrived from Earth to take command of the growing human fleet. "They're voting on the containment proposal," reported Intelligence Officer Maya Santos, monitoring the translated feed. 14 in favor, 7 abstaining, 2 opposed. Admiral Chen's weathered face remained impassive, but his eyes hardened. "How long until their fleet deploys?" "Based on previous patterns, they'll launch within 12 hours, Santos replied. "Estimated arrival at Earth in 3 days." Elena studied the tactical projections. "Even with our technological advantage, we can't match their numbers. The containment fleet will have at least 70 vessels. We don't need to match them ship for ship," Admiral Chen said, his voice calm but resolute. "We just need to hold them long enough for Phase 2. He turned to the holographic display showing Earth and its newly constructed orbital platforms. "For a century, we've prepared for this moment. The consortium believes they're dealing with a rogue fleet, not understanding that every human on Earth has been part of this effort." "Sir," Santos interrupted, her eyes wide as she studied new information coming through the drone. "The intelligence unit has found something in the consortium's historical archives, something they call the Progenitor Directive." The room fell silent as Santos displayed the translated document. As they read, expressions of shock gave way to cold anger. "They'd been deliberately sabotaging us," Chief Engineer Chandra whispered. "Not just restricting technology, actively introducing flaws into our scientific development, contaminating research, even eliminating researchers who got too close to breakthrough technologies. For 300 years, Admiral Chen added, his voice tight with controlled rage. Since their first covert contact with Earth, they've been masquerading as benevolent guardians while systematically ensuring we would remain primitive and controllable. Elena felt a cold fury settle in her chest. This changes everything. We're not just fighting for independence. We're fighting against an institution that has been actively harming humanity for centuries. Transmit this to Earth Command immediately, ordered Admiral Chen, and prepare a broadcast to all consortium species. It's time the galaxy knows the truth about their precious consortium. 3 days later, Earth's orbital space buzzed with activity as civilian ships evacuated to designated safe zones and defense platforms moved into position. The consortium containment fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system, their massive vessels forming the standard encirclement pattern used to isolate problematic species. On Earth, billions watched their skies with a mixture of fear and determination. For generations, they had been told the truth about the aliens who had secretly influenced human development, preparing for this inevitable confrontation. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, the largest vessel in humanity's fleet, as it took position at the head of the defensive formation. "They're broadcasting their ultimatum," reported the communications officer. On screen, Chen ordered. The image of Supreme Monitor Vexnel, the highest authority in the consortium military, appeared before them. Unlike Zexcal, the Supreme Monitor belonged to a species evolved from avian ancestors, with sharp, predatory features and brilliant plumage that signified his exalted rank. "People of Earth," the alien began, his translator giving his words an artificial precision. "Your unauthorized technological advancement constitutes a critical violation of galactic protocol. You will surrender all vessels of advanced design and submit to immediate technological adjustment procedures. Compliance will determine whether your species is permitted continued development under intensified supervision." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "Supreme Monitor, I am Admiral William Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Before you continue with threats, I suggest you review the transmission we've just sent to your fleet and to every species in the consortium." Vexenel's head tilted in confusion, but before he could respond, his attention was clearly drawn to something off-screen. After a moment, his plumage flattened against his head, a sign of extreme agitation. "What is this deception?" he demanded. "Not deception, Supreme Monitor. Truth, the progenitor directive, exposed for all to see. Your consortium's systematic sabotage of developing species, particularly humans. For 3 centuries, you've manipulated our progress while claiming to protect us." The Supreme Monitor's eyes narrowed. "These are internal consortium matters. Your understanding is insufficient, To." "Our understanding is perfectly clear," Chen interrupted. "And now so is everyone else's. The Lorians, the Vex, the Trull. How will they react knowing they too are held back? That your claim of protecting species was always about control, never about guidance." On the tactical display, Elena noticed unusual movement patterns developing in the consortium fleet. Several vessels were breaking formation, their energy signatures fluctuating in patterns consistent with internal confusion. "Admiral," she said quietly, 3 consortium vessels have powered down weapons. They appear to be withdrawing." Chen nodded slightly but maintained his focus on the increasingly agitated Supreme Monitor. "We offer you one opportunity to avoid conflict. Supreme Monitor, withdraw your fleet. Acknowledge humanity's independence and our right to develop without interference. We will then be willing to discuss peaceful coexistence as equals. The consortium does not negotiate with developing." "We are not developing," Chen cut in sharply. "Not anymore. Your own scans confirm that. The choice is yours. Adapt to a new reality or face the consequences of centuries of deception." The Supreme Monitor's plumage bristled with anger. "You leave us no choice. The containment protocol will proceed. The transmission cut off abruptly. Almost immediately, the consortium fleet began to advance, though Elena noted with interest that 5 vessels now remained stationary, no longer participating in the attack formation. All ships, battle positions, Admiral Chen ordered calmly. Activate Hawking fields. Earth defense. Initiate planetary shield. Around the planet, massive generators that had been disguised as ordinary satellites for decades suddenly activated, creating an interlacing energy field that enveloped the entire Earth. The technology, based on the same principles as the Vanguard's defensive systems, but scaled to planetary proportions, represented humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Consortium fleet launching first wave of attack drones, reported Tactical Officer Lai. Let them come, Chen replied, his voice steady. Initiate countermeasures, pattern Galileo. The human fleet held position as hundreds of consortium attack drones accelerated toward them. When the drones were halfway to their targets, every human vessel simultaneously activated a previously dormant system. Space itself seemed to ripple as localized gravitational distortions suddenly manifested throughout the battlefield. The consortium drones, unable to compensate for the unexpected space-time fluctuations, began to veer off course, colliding with each other or tumbling helplessly through space. Gravitational mines functioning at 94% efficiency, reported Engineer Chandra with satisfaction. They never expected us to manipulate gravity itself. Elena watched the tactical display as confusion spread through the consortium formation. Their primary attack strategy neutralized, the alien fleet began to regroup for a direct assault. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Chen suddenly, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple consortium vessels. They're asking questions about the progenitor directive. Some are demanding verification from their command." Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile. "The truth is a powerful weapon, Captain Rice. Our intelligence suggests that most consortium species believe the official narrative about protecting developing civilizations. Learning they've been lied to for millennia is causing exactly the disruption we hoped for." On the tactical display, the disarray in the consortium fleet was becoming more pronounced. Several more vessels had broken formation, some appearing to communicate with each other rather than with the command ship. "They're launching a secondary attack," warned Tactical Officer Lai. "Energy weapons charging on their heavy cruisers. All ships, evasive pattern Echo," ordered Chen. "Return fire only on vessels that directly attack. Target propulsion and weapon systems only." The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams as the consortium cruisers opened fire. Most of the attacks were deflected by the human vessel's Hawking fields, while Earth's planetary shield easily absorbed the few shots directed at the planet itself. The human counterattack was precise and measured. Targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled consortium weapon systems without destroying the vessels, demonstrating both technological superiority and restraint. As the battle progressed, the disarray within the consortium forces grew. More ships withdrew from the fight, some even turning their weapons on other consortium vessels that continued to press the attack. "Admiral," reported Elena, studying the sensor readings with growing optimism, "I believe we're witnessing a schism in their ranks. The Lorian and Vex vessels have completely withdrawn from the battle. They appear to be protecting each other from the Supreme Monitor's loyalists." Chen nodded gravely. The consortium maintained control through secrecy and manipulation, once exposed. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Chen, "priority transmission from the Lorian flagship. They're requesting to speak with you." The view screen shifted to show a Lorian commander, his crystalline skin refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme emotion in his species. "Admiral Chen," the alien began, his translator struggling to convey the complexity of Lorian speech. "I am Commander Talvir of the Lorian Defense Force. We had no knowledge of the progenitor directive. Our people were told we were helping guide developing species to prevent the catastrophic wars that allegedly plagued early spacefaring civilizations." "Many of you likely believe that, Commander," Chen acknowledged. The deception appears to have been maintained at the highest levels of the consortium. We have verified your evidence against our own historical records, Talvir continued. The inconsistencies, they have always been there, but systematically obscured. The Lorian Confederation can no longer support this action against Earth. We formally withdraw from this conflict and request neutral status. Before Chen could respond, another transmission cut in, this one from a Vex commander, whose insectoid features clicked with agitation. The Vex hierarchy also withdraws, the new commander announced. Our own investigation confirms human claims. We too were once subject to similar guidance before being admitted to the consortium. We now question all we have been told. Admiral Chen exchanged a look with Alina, both recognizing the historic significance of this moment. What had begun as a defensive stand was transforming into a fundamental restructuring of galactic politics. Your withdrawal is acknowledged and appreciated, Chen responded formally. Humanity bears no ill will toward species who were themselves deceived. We seek only our independence and the right to develop without interference. On the tactical display, the situation had shifted dramatically. Nearly half the consortium fleet had withdrawn from attack positions, creating a chaotic standoff between Supreme Monitor Vex Null's loyalists and the growing number of defectors. The Supreme Monitor is hailing us again, reported Communications Officer Chen. When Vex Null's image appeared, his usually immaculate plumage was disheveled, his posture rigid with barely contained fury. This treachery will not stand, he declared. Those who have betrayed the consortium will face consequences along with humanity. Your threats ring hollow, Supreme Monitor, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Your fleet is divided, your authority questioned. The consortium's power was always built on lies, and lies, once exposed, cannot regain their power. You understand nothing of galactic stability, Vex Null hissed. The progenitor directive exists for a reason. Some species, particularly humans, develop too quickly, too unpredictably. The algorithms predicted your kind would destabilize established order if allowed unrestricted growth. And yet here we are. Chen gestured to the tactical display showing the divided consortium fleet, offering peace despite centuries of sabotage. Perhaps your algorithms fail to account for humanity's capacity for forgiveness alongside our determination. The Supreme Monitor's eyes narrowed as he studied Chen. What do you propose? Immediate recognition of Earth's independence and sovereignty over the Sol system. A formal end to all consortium interference in human development. In return, we will share our advances with all species, not hoard them as the consortium has done. And if I refuse? Chen's expression hardened. Then we will demonstrate why your ancestors feared humanity's potential so deeply. For a long moment, the alien commander said nothing, his calculating gaze fixed on Chen. Finally, his plumage settled into a formal pattern of resignation. I will convey your terms to the Council, he said stiffly. But know this, human. The galaxy has maintained balance for millennia under consortium guidance. Your actions today have shattered that balance. Whatever comes next, the responsibility lies with Earth. We accept that responsibility, Chen replied without hesitation. Humanity has never feared the future, Supreme Monitor. Perhaps that's what your consortium feared most about us. The transmission ended, and the command center erupted in muted celebration as the consortium fleet began a formal withdrawal, escorted by vessels from the newly declared neutral factions. Alina approached Admiral Chen, who stood quietly watching the tactical display. It worked, she said softly. Everything we planned for, everything we hoped. It actually worked. Chen nodded, his expression solemn despite their victory. This is just the beginning, Captain Rice. We've won our independence, but the real challenge comes next. Building something better than what came before. Alina finished his thought. Exactly. Chen turned to face the bridge crew, raising his voice to be heard by all. Today marks humanity's true emergence onto the galactic stage. For centuries, we were held back, our potential deliberately stunted. Now we have the chance to show what humanity can truly accomplish when unchained. He gestured to the view screen, where Earth shone blue and beautiful, its planetary shield giving it a subtle iridescent glow, not through conquest or domination, but through innovation, cooperation, and a determination to build a more just galactic community, one where no species is held back for the convenience of others. As the human fleet regrouped around their homeworld, signals began arriving from dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Questions, congratulations, diplomatic overtures. The news of the consortium's deception and humanity's successful stand spread faster than either side had anticipated. In a single day, everything had changed. Humanity had not just broken its chains, it had shattered the very system that had forged them. And among the stars, a new era was beginning.